Hey, what's going on, guys? We the people here, coming to you with another Legends of Runeterra video. So, in this one, I'm gonna do something a little different. So I know recently I've been giving you guys the deck profiles and also obviously the Mystic Shop podcast, content and stuff like that. But in this one, I just want to have a serious conversation about the direction that the game is going, and to really get specific on a topic, I want to talk about how exactly ladder feels in general, and also just my overall feelings on the game in general, right? Because let me give you guys some context and some background. So today, first of all, I've been playing Runeterra since beta. It's like since the game came out of beta. I was playing before Bridgewater came out, which is technically the first, Bridgewater was the first expansion, and I was basically playing since then. So I pretty much have seen the game from at its worst. I've seen the game from beginning to end, and that's the context that I'm trying to give you guys. So, you know what? Wait, before I get into all my thoughts, right? I should remind you guys, because if I don't, then you guys are not gonna do it. But I have to give you guys the YouTube stuff. I mean, I'm clamoring to talk about this stuff, but guys, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And look into the links, because the Mystic Shop podcast has a completely different channel that all the videos are on, so go check that out as well. But all right, enough of that. Let's get into the context of the video, because I really want to personally talk about it, because honestly there aren't enough people talking about how ladder feels to play and just the overall polarization of things. So I don't know if anybody else has been feeling this. I mean, leave comments down below if you have arguments against how I feel, or if you agree with how I feel. Leave comments down below. But the biggest things that I'm going to be getting to in this video is pretty much the polarizing matchups, right? Because, and I was talking to Optima earlier about this actually, it's just like the game has been steadily heading into a direction where matchups are incredibly, and I say that I'm not trying to be over exaggerative, but this is just how I feel personally, is that the game is heading in a direction where things are super polarized, where it's like if you're not playing either 1, 2, or maybe 3 decks, you're not gonna climb. And I think that's a really, really bad direction for Runeterra to go, especially with the amount of like, the game is surrounded around champions, right? And if let's say each deck has 2 champions, right? So that means out of those 3 decks, that maybe 6 champions out of all the champions in the game are actually viable. That can't be good. That can't be good for the health of the game. Like, I don't know. It just doesn't feel good when the only decks, like, I'm gonna use this meta as an example, right? But I feel like the meta has been like this for a while. Like, even TF is. I mean, me personally, the first meta that was really polarizing was Go Hard. I'm sure if you've been playing Runeterra for a while, you remember the Go Hard meta. I mean, the Go Hard meta is what made me lose a lot of love for the game. Honestly, it did. And it was also the way Riot didn't balance things. They didn't change. I feel like they didn't want to change things. They didn't want to make changes. And when they finally did, it honestly didn't matter. Because, I mean, Go Hard pretty much rampaged all over the place, and they basically told you either had to play it or you had to counter it and maybe win. Like, that was pretty much what you had to do, and it didn't feel good. It didn't. And ever since then, that's pretty much what they've been doing to us with TF Fizz. TF Fizz was a busted deck. It was the TF Fizz, in my opinion, was our first glimpse of what a tier 0 deck looks like in like Runeterra status, because I feel like not a lot of people are talking about, because all right, for Yu-Gi-Oh, like, okay, me personally, I come from Yu-Gi-Oh, right? So when you talk about a tier 0 deck, right, I feel like every card game has different tier 0 decks. Like for Hearthstone, a tier 0 deck in Hearthstone might not be a tier 0 deck in Magic. Same thing with Pokemon, or same thing with Yu-Gi-Oh. Like, Runeterra has its own set of tier 0 kind of decks. And what all the tier 0 deck is pretty much a deck that's uncounterable by the means of things that are in the game. And also, actually no, that's not really a good definition. I think a better definition is it's a deck that the meta is warped around. That's actually, yes, that is a way better definition. A tier 0 deck is a deck that the meta is warped around. Like, literally, the meta is warped around that deck. So, because I say that to say, like, that, and I mean, that's the definition of it in Runeterra. For other card games, maybe that's not it. Maybe it's just a deck that's uncounterable, right? But for Runeterra, I'm not gonna say that we have decks that are literally like uncounterable, because most decks have some kind of counter. But when a deck gets to a point, right, when the list is literally condensed down to a certain amount of cards that literally have to be played in that deck, right? A deck gets to a certain point when the meta has to shape to a certain way to either counter it or to do what it's doing faster. And the fact that decks have to do that, or else they literally don't compete, is what a tier 0 deck is. That is the definition of it. And us as a community need to start talking about this, because Runeterra, Fizz, TF Go Hard was a tier 0 deck. TF Fizz was a tier 0 deck. And now Aurelia Azir is a tier 0 deck. It is. It's a tier 0 deck. And we cannot allow these decks to just rampage unchecked. And also on the same spectrum, Nasus with Thresh is on the cusp of being a tier 0 deck. And in my opinion, in my personal opinion, if a TLC deck is piloted well, it's a tier 0 deck. Like, what can you do to that? Like, honestly. And if you have to build a whole aggro list that kills it before turn 8, what have you accomplished? Honestly, what have you accomplished? You maybe out of those, maybe, and to be honest, every single game, if the person plays well, you're not gonna win every single game. And then what's the point of countering it? Because the point of countering is that you're gonna win. Like, this is the matchup that you can't lose. And especially in lanes of tournament play, right? Because I mean, that's the direction that Runeterra is headed down, right? Runeterra is headed down a path of playing in tournaments, right? So matchups and polarization of matchups has everything to do with tournaments. Because at the end of the day, it's not like you play, yes, you play best 2 out of 3, but each match is separate. So you're playing one deck against another deck. So you're gonna have to play Nasus into an aggro deck. And you know that matchup is polarized. You know you basically, if you're not killing, if Nasus doesn't A, draw a bad hand, and B, you draw the god hand, and C, you literally have to rush them down and kill them, then you know that's not a game you're gonna win. And that's not okay. That's not okay. Matchups shouldn't be polarized. There shouldn't, like, the devs need to really hone in on the polarization of these cards that they're creating. And it's not every single card, it's not every single deck. It's just very specific cards that when they interact with different sets of cards, they become very polarizing. And it's like there's no counterplay to polarization. It's like I said, it's like spiders into Nasus. Like, you know that's a matchup that you're gonna win when you're the Nasus player. You don't even have to think about it. Like, it's an easy dub. It's an easy dub. Anybody could pilot that and win. While the aggro player is stressing, is literally like, I don't even know if I can do this. Because there's almost no way that they're gonna win. And polarization of just in general matchups it's a lot to deal with. It is. And to be honest, the devs have a really big mission ahead of them. They do. They have a really big mission, and hopefully they can figure it out. To be honest, in my personal opinion, I think the biggest answer is for them to just stop being so conservative with all the buffs that they're doing. Because, like, in the patch notes, them buffing Malphite and Talia in a meta where basically landmarks are trash, it's like, what? Like, that doesn't even make sense. It's like, why would you buff two champions? Like, yes, these champions need buffs, but there are other champions that if you had even just kind of touched them or even touched their support cards, that they would actually be a challenge in the meta. So why it's like Riot doesn't want to make buffs that will change the meta, but they're willing to make buffs that won't change the meta. And that doesn't make sense. It's like, what? Like, I don't know, guys. I mean, that's pretty much my rant for the day. Honestly, it was just something I was thinking about for a long time. How the polarizing matchups change tournament play, and then also on ladder, pretty much it can be a lot. And then also ranking up becomes a lot harder, and even playing the game in general becomes a lot harder when you queue up. Say for instance, you queue up Nasus Azir, right? And you're playing the game, and you just keep queuing into TLC, right? You can't get away from TLC. That's a polarized matchup. You're gonna lose. You're meant to lose. You don't have enough tools to deal with everything they have. It's a matchup you're not gonna win. Like, it's just, you're not gonna win. And there's no way for you to literally like master a deck if you just keep playing into polarized matchups. There's no way you're learning anything from that. I know me personally, that's why I feel like I haven't learned anything of how the deck plays and how it actually works and interacts with other decks, because I'm facing in polarized matchups. That's like Nasus against Dragons. Like, what have I learned from that? Other than Dragons is a terrible matchup. What have I learned? Absolutely nothing. To be honest, I haven't learned anything. All I know is if I draw a really bad hand, it's like basically 9 times out of 10, I'm going to lose that matchup. That's pretty much all I've learned. Honestly, I haven't learned anything. And I don't know, it's just crazy that the devs, I feel like over time, they've just, like, they haven't they've just stopped, I guess, not caring, but they've stopped listening to our viewpoints on how we feel about the game. But all right, I'm gonna end it here, guys. So if you guys have any comments, any concerns, leave them down in the comments below. And yeah, so I think tomorrow I'm probably gonna work on another deck profile. We should be coming out with another Mystic Shop podcast episode before the end of the week, so look forward to that. But yeah, that's about it. So guys, appreciate everybody for coming on by. If you check out this video, if you make it to the end, I appreciate the hell out of you. And yeah, that's about it. So see you in the next one. All right, peace out.